He still doesn't like it when I say that, but I think he's getting used to it. Let's see here. Jeff Steve Garvey, he'll hit a home run for you. Drew Morris, nice to have you here. The lovely Lala B, always a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for coming on in. Jurassic Joey, thank you for joining us. Low Pro, how are you? Globe Asunder, it's been a while. Good to have you here. 405er, nice to see you. And who else is here? Eric Austin, welcome to SOR Chat. And we are caught up. Oh, here we go. Simply Cocoa. There she is. Vodka and pink lemonade is the drink for tonight. Beautiful drink. Oh, shit. Thank you for reminding me. There we go. We're officially on the air. Hopefully you didn't see my ass crack on the way up. And the great way to support this show, the Super Chat is open. So who wants to be first? We really do appreciate the love. And, of course, you can get all your SOR gear on our website, spacedoutradio.com. Lorien Fenton is our guest. Give us a thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways, and hit that subscribe button if you are new. But for right now, horns up. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Odyssey Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We got a great show planned for you tonight. First, we're going to talk some UFOs and disclosure with one of the best out there. Lorien Fenton will be with us. She joined us in Vegas for the fan party as well. It was absolutely phenomenal. And, of course, right after that, we got a great story from the swamp dweller in the swamp. And the fedora-wearing John Hudson joins us for the UFO report, along with Shirky Poo's News in Hour 3. Let's get right to it. One of my good friends in this field, she's like an older sister. She is. And without Lorien Fenton, I will tell you this, our growth with Spaced Out Radio would be so much smaller than what it is. For some reason, about 5 years ago, Lorien took a liking to us. And she's like, hey, I want you to speak at my conference, UFO Con in San Francisco. And I was like, meek little me. I'm like, sure, I can do that. I can't believe that just moved. Maybe he's here. Who knows? Hey, Ethereal Aura, are you here? Knock that paper down if you are. That would be great. So for people who don't know, let me just do a sidebar here. In my studio, I have a guitar. And in between the guitar strings, I have a note from one of our listeners who passed away back in February named Ethereal Aura. And right before he passed, he was unfortunately not a healthy man, so he chose doctor-assisted suicide. And 8 hours before he passed away, he came into our chat room to say goodbye. And I said to him point blank, I said, I'm going to put this little note in here, and when you're on the other side, if you ever feel the ability to come on by the studio, move that piece of paper. And it moved. I'm like tripping out right now. I don't know whether that was for me, because it's not connected to my desk. I'm a little weirded out right now. I am. This is awesome. All right, back to Lorien Fenton for a minute. We're going to see if that piece of paper is going to fall tonight. Maybe ethereal aura, his spirit is with us in studio. That'll be really cool if it happens. But I got to tell you, Lorien Fenton is a researcher for the last 3 decades plus. She is someone who is involved with MUFON. She is an experiencer. She is an intuitive. She literally is one of the greatest people I feel in this field, and I'm going to bring her in right now. Lorien Fenton, I know you hate it when I talk that way about you because you're not about accolades, you're not about anything like that, but I have to tell you publicly, and I know I tell you all the time, and I brag about you, but I love you, and to have you do what you have done over the last 4 or 5 years for our growth has been incredible, and thank you so much again for coming on our show.
You're welcome. Can you hear me okay? Everything good?
You are perfect.
Oh, wonderful. I got a new headset and nothing's working right so far, so I'm happy. And yes, I do hate it when you talk about me like that, but, it is what it is, and I appreciate you too, sweetheart. You have really, you're always there for me. So I want everybody in the audience to know there are a lot of people in this business that aren't there for you. So when you find a good friend like Dave Scott who is, there you go. And I even got an extra alien magnet when I was in Las Vegas.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. And, so for what people who don't know, in Vegas we gave away a number of swag items to people who were there. And I actually had a lady locally who owns a resort. And what she does is she's on a number of acres where her resort is, and she's a paranormal ghost investigator. So she was showing off these magnets to me, a Bigfoot, and she's like, I can do aliens too. So what she does is she goes onto her property, she chops down a very small tree, maybe that's 3 inches in diameter, and she cuts little pieces off, maybe 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch pieces, and then she paints them into alien faces or Sasquatch, and then sells them. So that's how we ended up getting that. And I asked her if she would do a bunch of alien heads and Bigfoot for us, and that's how we got those.
Very cool. Loved it. Love it. I have it on my little magnet by my work desk. I mean, what do they call that? It's a metal thing that we put all of our stuff on. So, little poster board, whatever. It's great. Everybody in the office is going, what is that? It's an alien. So, it's a good thing that, what you should have done with them, Dave? I know we're talking like shop right now instead of, UFOs, but we should put spaced out radio on them.
You know what? I know there just wasn't the room. Maybe next year. Yeah,
next year. Do it next year. It'd be great. Anyhow, so we had a blast in Vegas, everybody. You've got to be there next year. It was so much fun. It really was.
Well, Lorien, for people who may not be familiar with whom you are, this is a lifelong adventure for you. You're a lifelong experiencer, lifelong intuitive, but over the last 3+ decades, you've really turned up the jets to try and find the real conspiracy behind UFOs, aliens, the cover-up that goes along with it. Looking back over your time, how has the entire field shifted or changed from when you started to where we are today in this social media world?
Oh my God. Well, I was just going to say that when you ask that question, the first thing that comes to mind is that when I was doing my initial research on anything like this, spirituality, being a psychic, UFOs, there was nothing about UFOs and aliens when I was really doing this. I had science fiction to read. And the very first science fiction book I ever read was Arthur C. Clarke's Childhood's End. And I think that was the path for the beginning for me about contact with aliens. Since that time, since we all had to read, that's all we could do was read, I was probably devouring at least 3 or 4 books a week, and I was working full-time and dancing full-time. So and luckily enough, I was in the dance world. And we had a lot of spare time. You'd sit around a lot. It's not like hockey. Well, it is like hockey. You sit on the bench and you wait. But when we got to sit around and wait for our next, part in the show or whatever for rehearsal or whatever, we had time to read. And back then, every dancer I knew was reading something, whether they were reading school text or getting ready to go off to college or, whatever. Everybody was reading something. Me, I was reading science fiction, books on, I did find a few books on space travel, like what they thought UFOs were doing at the time. And there were a lot of really fun books on channeling at the time, which is very interesting. The 70s was kind of the Seth era of channeling. So we had that going on. We also had the old books on magic and witchcraft and the Golden Dawn and things like that. So I got a very well-rounded education when it came to the psychic phenomena, the spiritual phenomena, the consciousness group that it's turned into now. Back then it was just spiritual. Now it's consciousness. And it's changed completely. It's gone from paper to electronics. And that's what we got. It's just completely electronics now. And sadly, and this is the bad part about it for me, is that everybody has to have everything in 15-minute segments, and they're just little sound bites. And I listened to, on the behest of Melinda Leslie and Dave Scott, I have forced myself to start listening to the younger and newer podcasters. And it's been quite an experience. I mean, they're very interesting, and they seem to be very interested in what's going on around them. And they're interested in speakers and people and authors that come on their show. But what they're not interested in, and which really bothers me, and I've been telling Dave this for years now, is that they don't understand the history. They only know what's going on right now. And pretty much most of them have picked up from where the To the Stars Academy started in about 215, 217 in that era in Tom DeLonge as kind of like the beginning of it all. And it's not the beginning of it all. What that is, it's the beginning of the government finally coming out and saying, hey, look, there is this thing called disclosure, and we're going to help you get there. And that's where they kind of jumped in. And they have forgotten they haven't forgotten. They just don't even know about the history of ufology in the world or even in the United States for that matter. So in a weird way, it's kind of sad because I listen to them speak and they really don't grasp the past. And in my opinion, you've got to have a really good feel for the past and what happened in order to actually understand what you're talking about now and where we want to go in the future.
Let me interrupt you. Let me interrupt you on that because I think you brought up a good point. There are a number of youngsters who are, and when I say youngsters, I'm not talking age. I'm saying in the new popular social media generation of it. And I think that there are some brilliant minds out there and some who really do care about the history, but I do agree with you that the majority have no idea what happened previous to the Stars Academy. Yeah. Sure, they know Roswell. Sure, they know Kecksburg and maybe some other whatever they've decided to focus on. But let me reframe this or rephrase this question here. Why is the history of what happened, let's go way back to Roswell, still important today?
Oh, Roswell's important today because it was the first time that our government and the people in that area in the United States got a full-blown front page article saying UFOs have landed in Roswell. And then the denial started. See, this is the part nobody thinks about. Hi, Science Bob. It's so good to see you. Anyhow, that's where the denial started. And that's our first place where we actually got, full-fledged denial. They say a UFO landed in the newspaper across the whole United States. And then 2 days later, they say, oops, it was a weather balloon. And then, 25 years later, they say it was crash test dummies that weren't even around then. I mean, they have been doing plausible deniability for, 75 years now about Roswell. So that's what makes it the most important case in the United States history of ufology, because that's where it started. That's where they couldn't cover it up anymore. Up to that point, they had Project Blue Book, and there were certain sightings that happened during Project Blue Book, like the Kenneth Arnold and things like that. But they weren't as big of a deal all over the United States. I mean, we had the Farmington flap in 42 or 47. I can't remember what year, but it was 2 weeks of 4 to, I think it was 8 small, what they called the Bob Lazar what was that called? The sports model?
Yeah.
Yeah, the sports models were flying around Farmington, New Mexico and buzzing the main street at 25 feet over the street. And it went on for 2 weeks, off and on all day long, and everybody just knew it was there, and it got written about, but it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't like the military. The military did not let it get out, and the people in the town just didn't really, I mean, they reacted, but after 2 weeks of them flying over and doing nothing, nobody seemed to care anymore. It was just so bizarre, and that never made national news or global news. Roswell is the first one that ever made national news on every paper. UFOs have landed in Roswell. And then they started covering it up.
I don't know if you've been following what's happening in Canada here, but there's been some UFO news breaking out of Canada recently, courtesy of Daniel Otis, who's a freelance writer, where this past Friday, there was an article in the in CTV News on their website, and it actually made it to the mainstream newscast, about how our former defense minister in 2021, 4 days before the DIA report came out last year, was read in to what is going on. And I
heard something about it, but I've been busy all weekend. Can you tell me what it contained, and I'll give you my comments on it? Well,
it basically contained there was some leaked papers on there about sites and retrievals, who was in the meeting. That those were of course redacted. But the main thing is, the main story is that Canada got on the board. Now, a story that I'd been working on for 2 years. I want to let our audience know this while we're in this, and I know you'll be excited too. But as of today, we have confirmed for June 1st that Member of Parliament Larry Maguire from Brandon Souris in Manitoba, who brought up the UFO topic around Canadian energy facilities, will be a guest on this show. This will be his first interview on radio/YouTube, where he will be speaking about Canada and UAPs. He will be, outside of the retired Paul Hellyer, he is the only Canadian politician right now talking publicly about UAP. And he's the one who started.
Amazing.
And we got him coming on this show on June 1st. Nobody else has him. This is exclusive. And
cool. I'm so excited for you, Dave. That's great.
So
now, what is he going? Is he going to talk about what happened with this report? I mean,
we're gonna get right into it because here's something else you don't know. Because I know you're quite busy with your private job and everything like that.
Yeah, and I just got back from New Living Expo. I went in on Friday, and I just got home today. So I've been busy all weekend with no internet access. So I have no idea what's happening.
Luis Elizondo actually embarrassed me on my show.
Oh, what did he do to you, Dave?
Well, he actually outed me as being the person who got the Canadian government members to talk to U.S. government members of UFOs.
You did that? Oh my God! Thank you. That's amazing.
Yes.
How did you accomplish that?
Well, we do a monthly segment across Canada with a show called The Shift, where we simulcast each other's shows. Okay, talking about UFOs and everything weird happening in Canada. Well, one of the politicians happened to be I'm not going to say which one. One of the politicians happened to be listening in. And
cool.
And then looked us up, found my email, sent me an email, and said, I would like to schedule a talk with you. Well, this started 2 years of information gathering and and trading information. And one day he says to me, he goes, I'm getting requested for people to talk to Luis Elizondo. Do you know how to get a hold of him? I said, well, yeah, I got his phone number in my phone, and I have his email. Would you reach out to Lou and see if we can take his number and give him a phone call? I said, I will do it. So I got a hold of Lou, and I said, man, this is what's happening. This is what's going on. Would you be interested, or would you give me permission to give your information to members of the Canadian government? And I stated to him who they were, for full disclosure.
Right.
And he says, absolutely, and I will keep you in touch with what's going on. And
great.
That's how that entire thing started. So when when all of this is starting to explode, every Canadian can blame me. Every Canadian can blame me. That's just the...
Well, we can thank you right now, because that's a real badge of, stick-to-itiveness, and it's important that everybody knows that there are people working behind the scenes to try to get this thing out there. I mean, exposed. And thank you for doing that, because, not everybody wants to take on that job. I mean, I've had a lot of people lately tell me I wouldn't even touch the UFO thing with a 10-foot pole, let alone try to, interact with government officials about it. So good for you. Thank you so much.
Well, you know what? I know a lot of people have asked, so I just figured I would put it out there and talk to you about it. But let's talk. We got about 2.5 minutes before we have to go to break at the bottom of the hour. Lorien Fenton is our guest tonight. Lorien, in regards to the newer ufologists that are out there and not knowing the history, are you enjoying at least a lot of this new energy that is being pumped into the UFO land?
I don't know if enjoying is the right word. I'm exploring it. Let's put it that way. I do like the enthusiasm. I'm not sure that these guys are. I'm not sure what their agenda is. That's the problem. I listen to their shows, and I've yet to hear what. And maybe it's just entertainment. That's the only thing I can think of. My problem is I always separate the entertainment from the researcher. And I used to believe that nobody should be on air talking about this subject unless they were a researcher or really cared about it or belonged to like MUFON or did something where they were in the field trying to make a difference. And that's where I'm wrong. And, I'll admit it. I'll be the first one to admit that I've been wrong by over-judging people on this. I realize what social media has done is it has turned it into an entertainment area that I don't quite get because I'm too old to understand it. But it's something that they all get. Anybody under 40 gets it, and I'm glad they get it. And maybe that's the way they're learning now. Maybe that's how research works for these people, for anybody under 40 who didn't grow up reading a book. Maybe this is their book and they have to use it to get to the next stage. I don't know. But part of me is very happy that they're doing it, that they're listening to these podcasts, that they're learning some new information. And part of me is a little upset, though, because I listen to what these people say, the podcasters, the young people in the community. And I have heard lately, which really scares me, is a misspoken story of how something went, how the story unfolded. And the truth, just like the blind men with the elephant, it keeps changing. By the time they get to the end of the story, it is not what I witnessed when I was there for that event, okay? And it's just one of my stories, basically was included in one of these, events that were talked about on the shows. And I know many of the other stories that happened. I mean, I'll give you a quick example. Are we at break yet?
We got about 10 seconds, so why don't you save that?
Oh, well, go ahead. I'll save it for later.
Yeah, that'd be great. Lorien Fenton is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. And when we come back, we're going to continue learning about the newer broadcasters, what she feels, and we're going to get into some UFOs, some disclosure, the news that is pushing the limits right now on what we know about UAP, the government, and who's Pulling whose legs? We'll figure it out when we return on Spaced Out Radio for the second half hour. Right after this. Stay tuned. All right, we're clear.
Yeah, I'm drinking my protein shake.
Nice. Nice. I'm going to be dabbling in my iced tea here momentarily.
Yes, we got to have our thing for our shows. Absolutely.
Oh, I know. I know.
Yeah, I was listening to somebody tell the story about the Corona event the other day. Oh, God. They got it all wrong.
Well,
they didn't even have the right people.
Save it.
Oh, my God.
Save it for when we get back. Remember, our YouTube audience can hear what we're talking about.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Hi, YouTube audience.
Yeah.
Good to see you guys all. I'm glad that Science Bob is with us tonight.
I know. He's awesome. Him and I talk nearly every day. By the way, Science Bob, I'm sorry I didn't call you this morning. I will kick myself in the ass and call you in the morning as per usual.
So now when you were doing these phone calls with Lou and this other gentleman in the Canadian military or government, did they bring in the military in on this and help you with like a 3-ring circus kind of thing?
I was not involved in any of the talks.
Okay.
No, I was.
But you got everybody together.
I got the party together, and then they kicked me out.
Yeah, that's normal. I just did the same thing for the EMP task force down here in America through Homeland Security. I got them involved with some people. And I got everybody on the phone, and they said, well, you got to go now. I'm like, okay, bye. Because it was all like, high clearance over my head. No way am I going to be on that call.
Oh, I hear you.
But at least I got them together. There's hope.
Well, you know what? It was, I know that Elizondo was one of the people. I didn't find out from Lou, but I found out from another source that Elizondo was one of the people who was in that meeting that was recently released. Okay.
Okay. Now, this meeting that was released, is there a paper on it anywhere I can read about, or was it just an article? Or?
Yeah, it was an article on ctvnews.ca.
Okay, I'll find it. Was it last week?
Friday.
Okay, yeah. I'll read about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but I never.
I've got to do that.
I never expected Elizondo to out me on the show, though. I mean, that was pretty cool.
Was really nice. That is pretty
cool.
Because it's actually showing you respect.
It was.
So that.
It was, and no matter what people think of him, I still try to, as a journalist, I still try to call things down the middle, and. I don't play favorites. All I did was put people in contact.
Yeah.
And in the end, I want to be a part of the Canadian story. So.
Exactly. There you go. You're going to be now, for sure.
Yeah, I believe it. I may not go down in the history books, but I will be the dude who started it.
Exactly. And someone's got to do that. And that's pretty much what I've been doing all these years is I just get people together and try to make sure everybody's connecting to the right person and getting the stories outed, because that's really the thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, and thank you for having us down in, both myself and Lynn Wallington down in San Francisco there. What a great time that was at UFO Con. And
we had a blast.
I hope you do it again next year, because
I hope so. I'm having a little issue with the hotel, but that's the way it always is. It seems.
Well, you know what? At least they were friendlier this year. They didn't kick us out of the lobby.
Well, they did. You guys all started moving the furniture. What were you doing? She came up to me and she was like, they can't move the furniture. I'm like, why not? I said, why not? Who cares? She goes, no, they cost money, and if they break them, and I'm like, okay. So I said, I'm not telling them not to move the furniture. You go tell them.
They never told us. She never told us not to move the furniture.
Oh, there was a whole group of people out there. I think it was our singing group and, a bunch of other people. And she went in there and she just started screaming at everybody, "Stop moving the furniture." It was really funny, actually. I loved it. I thought to myself, well, at least it's somebody else screaming and not me this time. Thank God,
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We got 30 seconds. I want to say a big thank you to Science Bob, 405er, D. Cohen, and Jenny for the amazing super chats. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. And you can be like Nicole Sakic and be wearing your SOR gear literally 7 days a week. Oh, I forgot to tell you. You know what? I'm going to totally change subjects here when we come back, but we are going to finish up your thought, okay?
Okay.
Here we go.
This is important.
Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate it. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Lorien Fenton is here from the Fenton Perspective Podcast. She is a good friend and darling of SOR. We love her, and she is one of the most knowledgeable people when it comes to UFOs and ET contact. Lorien, welcome back.
Thank you. I love being here, as you know. Just to finish up what I was saying about the younger people and what they talk about, and when I say younger, just like Dave here, I don't mean younger in age, because some of them are in their 40s, actually. But I haven't found anybody over 50 yet. But anyhow, long story short, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they were talking about the Corona incident. I hope most of you know about that. It's where a whole group of people were taken from a conference, and they were all abducted at once, if you want to call it abduction. I call it like major contact all at once. And Yvonne Smith and the whole group of people were part of it. And Yvonne Smith actually wrote the book about it. And I'm listening to this podcast, and they had Yvonne's name wrong. It was somebody else I'd never even heard of. And they had half of the people that were involved in it, their stories, but from other incidents. And so I was like, wait a minute, they're talking about the Corona incident, and now they're talking about all these other stories, and they have nothing to do with Corona, but they acted like it was all part of the Corona incident. So this is the part I'm getting a little afraid of. What's happening, because it's not being taken from a book per se. Like in the old days, Art would get the book, Art Bell would get the book of the person that's going to talk on his show, and then he would review it and know pretty much what the person was going to talk about and the story du jour of the day, right? And they would talk about it in specifics. What's happening now is all the specifics are gone because no one's got books out there anymore. No one's doing that. They're all doing podcasts or doing whatever. Or if they researched it way in the past, they don't even have the book in front of them, or I don't know. But they're actually interviewing other people who weren't part of the incident and putting the story out there as if they were, because it's a historic event, and things are getting really muddled. I guess that's what I'm trying to say, is they're getting muddled and confused. And I hope that at some point, and here's what I'm going to do about it, because you know me, Dave, if I see a problem, I go try to fix it. I come up with a solution. I'm starting a television, internet television network like Dave's doing here with his podcast on YouTube and that type of thing. So I have my own channel coming up, and one of the shows we're doing is UFO history. That simple. It's called UFO history. It's going to be with several people, and it's going to start from way back in the 1600s, before even back to Christ era. And we're going to start bringing you up to speed on everything UFOs that we had all the way up until probably 2015. Because at that point, they're pretty much out there, anything that's happening, and it's all in podcasts and what have you. But up until that point, we're going to give you all the ones you know about, and we're going to give you all the ones you never even heard about as best we can. And it's going to take us years to get to that point, but it's going to be... It's going to take us years. We've been plotting it out, we've been storyboarding it, and it's like, I said, you guys, we got to be on the air for about 15 or 20 years just to even get close, And that's with doing one a day, 5 days a week.
No kidding.
So we're like, oh my God. So anyhow, that's what we're going to do. So you guys will have to start tuning into your UFO history lesson is what it's going to turn into for everybody. And you'll get all the stories that we can find and wherever talked about that we can come up with. So, yeah, Ufology 101. I guess that's what it's going to be called.
That sounds good. I would actually tune into that. I have to tell you something. Big story.
What?
So, yesterday, it was Mother's Day, and my partner says, I said to her, well, what do you want to do? She goes, you know what? I want to go out garage sailing. And for some reason in my community, people only hold garage sales on Saturdays. Okay, I don't know why.
Sure,
they don't do the Sunday thing. I don't know why. It just doesn't happen on Sundays. But so there was no garage sales around. I said, "Well, what do you want to do?" She goes, "Well, let's go for a drive." So we actually, in our about 25 minutes out of town, we have a butte, much like Devil's Tower. It's not as big. So I got some Team Stump pictures. I haven't put them up on my Instagram yet, but I will be soon, because I do believe they're not rocks, that they're, petrified tree stumps. And after that, I said, well, what do you want to do? She said, well, let's go this way. So we go that way and, turn down the highway. I said, well, what do you want to do? She goes, I want to go get ice cream. So fine, go pull into Dairy Queen, get her a Blizzard. Well, what do you want to do now? She goes, let's go in the forest. Let's just go for a drive in the forest. Okay, so we go for a drive in the forest, and I head up the one road where I had my Sasquatch gifting site. I tried it a week and a half ago, or 2 weeks ago before Vegas. I couldn't get up there because there was still quite a bit of snow. So we travel up in there, and easy. The Jeep goes through, not much snow, perfect. And I figured, you know what, let's go down to the water. There's this area where we call it the watering hole. There's always a puddle there. Always. And this is where a lot of animals congregate to drink. You'll see wolf tracks, cougar tracks, badger tracks, wolf tracks, moose tracks. So as we're driving, I see these giant moose tracks. They're probably, 6 inches in diameter. That's a big moose. And then as we're going past them, about 25, 30 feet past them, I'm and I drive slow on the logging roads because I want to be able to look down and see at the same time. I don't have to worry about traffic. And Lorien, I found a track of 9 prints.
9 Bigfoot prints?
9 Sasquatch prints.
Oh my God! Did you have your partner put her hand down by him, take pictures and everything?
We got a bunch of pictures. I'm going back there on Thursday, and I'm going to cast them.
Oh, great. It hasn't rained, right?
I'm the only vehicle that's gone on there so far. Knock on wood.
Oh, fantastic.
Okay. So I send my buddy Mike down there today because he wanted to see him. He wanted to see him. And he decides, no, I'm not going up that far. Just didn't feel right for him. So he's like, I got a feeling. He turns onto the road where I got to go, we got to go. And he's like, I got a feeling. And be damned if that area he doesn't find more tracks of bigger size.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
So this is an area where in 2017, we literally found like an 18-inch print and a 15-inch print. And then the forest fires happened, and then everything went dead, and then last year the forest fires happened again, and I thought this area is absolutely dead. There's no way I'm going to pull my gifting site, and bam, in 2 days we've found 2 different size prints within 5 miles of each other.
Is the forest coming back in that area?
It was.
Or did it get burned?
That part did not get burned. That part survived.
Oh, gosh. Well, you know what? They've been herded into that area then. You're probably going to have tons of sightings, and you're probably going to have tons of food taken. I mean, I think this is perfect.
Well, I am pumped about it because I literally thought this area was dead, and now it's back alive. And like I said, I'm going. I even told my boss at my daytime job today. I said, "Boss, I'm leaving work early," and he goes, "Why?" And I said, "I found Sasquatch prints. Why don't we shut down early and go out there and I'll show you them?" And be damned if a customer doesn't call up and says, "I'll be there at 4:00. We're like,
darn.
No. So we're going to try and close up work early tomorrow so I could go show them the prints. But I am pumped up. I am totally pumped up.
I think that's so exciting. God. Well, now, what are you doing about this gifting area? Tell me about it.
Well, I just put out toys. I don't put out food.
Okay.
Food is dangerous because if you start putting food out, then the animals become used to it, and then the area becomes aggressive, and I don't want that. So
right, like coyotes and everybody else too.
Well, I mean, and there's so much animals out there that in our area that could kill you. You know, I just don't want to take that chance. So I leave toys. I leave
cool.
I leave toys and I leave little things like rocks, and I'm going to now that I have 2 areas on one road. Mm-hmm. Now we're going to probably pull the original gifting site and then set up 2 more and see where that goes. See what happens. See what gets
and you've had them taken and moved and
rarely.
Oh, okay, rarely. All right.
The rocks originally, but nothing else. So I'm just going to rip it all down. Like I'm going to put a mirror up there. I'm going to put, a lot of other stuff. But hey, let's get to UFOs here. Let's get to some UFOs.
Yeah. But that is really cool. I'm so happy you found it. That's great.
Yeah. Hairbrush too. Thank you, Joe. Yeah, I'm going to put a hairbrush up there too.
They've got to look good, man, for that camera that you're going to get on them one day.
Oh, tell me about it. Okay. With UFOs, you've been doing this a long time, and you've seen the good, bad, ugly of ufology, especially when it involves former agents and government officials. We see a lot of government officials lately, like Congressman Tim Burchett, absolutely going haywire, saying we need to start taking this seriously as a government. We know they're here. Is this a good thing that the government is finally getting into the know of UFOs?
I think it's a wonderful thing. I think it's one of the best things that ever happened. Part of the problem, though, every time there's a good thing that comes along with our Senate, our House, our government down here in the United States, I mean, it's always a good thing. But the problem is that they're playing with something they don't understand. If they're all contactees on that, in the House or in the Senate or what have you, then it would be the most amazing thing that ever happened. But part of the problem is religion. And I go back to this all the time with people. You gotta remember, if you're a sitting senator and you're a devout Christian and someone comes up to you and says, yeah, we got UFOs and we got aliens, the first thing he's going to think is the devil. Okay? Then you've got somebody who's not a Catholic or religious at all that think that they're an atheist, and they think this is all hooey because they don't believe in anything beyond, humankind. I mean, it comes down to their belief, their personal beliefs, how they're going to be biased or non-biased towards what they're looking at. Okay? And that's fine if they were just, a company like the Rand Corporation or something that comes to the conclusion that we're not smart enough to be able to handle it. Okay, you can't handle the truth. But this is our government, and I worry that there's going to be bias towards their belief system brought into whatever conclusions or whatever decisions they're going to make towards helping us or not helping us, okay, with disclosure. And I hope I'm wrong. I really do. I hope that they can keep whatever they feel or think out of it, because the problem we've got is they're making decisions for contactees as well. This is the part that no one talks about. If disclosure happens, what happens to contactees and people that are having contact with ET? Is the government going to swoop us up and put us all in an internment camp while they're trying to figure out what's happening? I mean, who knows?
I want to ask you about that because there is some word, whether it's through my labs or whatever, that maybe, just maybe, there is a list of people, of names of people who have been taken over the years. Do you believe that list exists?
Absolutely. I know it exists. I've had people in deep, dark recesses of places that no one wants to know about tell me that the reason they started taking blood samples from children born in hospitals back in the 50s and starting to blood type you and do all these things was because they knew that the ETs were taking certain families and whatever arrangements they were making with the ETs at the time, they started understanding that if they can catalog all of us on a national database level. Now, people don't understand this also. They had computers back in the 60s. My aunt used to work for HP back in the 70s and 60s when they had rooms full of computers. It didn't make the computer less smart. It just made it bigger, and it took more manpower to run it. But they had databases. The military had databases. Every base in the United States had a database. They know everything about everybody, and they've known for a long time. So trust me, they know exactly whose families are being taken. They know the lineage. They know who's going, who's coming, who didn't make it back. They know who died in the process of this. They've covered up. This is the other thing people don't know. They've covered up the death of people that have had heart attacks or just died on the table with the ET because they couldn't take it. Who knows why they died? Who knows if the ET didn't do something to them, and they've covered up their deaths. I've heard of 2 incidences, only 2, since the 50s. Now, I don't know if this is prevalent or not, where they have actually put people back in their cars and made them run them off a cliff or run them into a tree and said that they had, they died in a car accident to the family. So they never knew what really happened to these people, especially military family as well.
My goodness.
So
do you believe then, and I have asked Lou Elizondo about this, I've asked almost everybody who's high up in the know of this same question. I will ask you this question then. Do you believe then that somewhere deep in the Pentagon there is this UFOs Pandora's box that does hold all the secrets to what's happened over the last, let's say, 100 years?
Yeah, but it's not at the Pentagon. They wouldn't put anything in the Pentagon. The Pentagon's for, military action that's happening now. And there may be people in the Pentagon that are part of what, if you want to call it, the MJ-12 crowd. I think it's a lot more than MJ-12. I call them the Cosmic 200. There's about 200 people on the planet right now that are really running the interaction with ETs. And there's several races of ETs that we're dealing with. And I absolutely believe that each one of those 200 people are compartmentalized with 2 or 3 or maybe 6 to 10 other people within that group. So you're probably looking at about 15 to 10 groups of 10 to, 5 to 10 people running different areas of the project, all knowing full well that it's a whole project, but they don't know all the pieces. And there's only probably, and I know this is crazy, but there's probably only 10 people on the whole planet who know everything. Right. And they aren't necessarily people we like to deal with. It could be people from the Bilderbergers. It could be, I don't know. I had a good hint sent to me once about 10 years ago. A gentleman I knew from my old Project Avalon days sent me a message saying that there were more people involved in the hierarchy of the what we call the Davos group now, the people that run the world financially that were in charge of this, and there were people out of the military. It used to be just the opposite. It used to be only a 2 or 3 people of the money running of the world would be involved in this operation, and now it seems like it's more 50-50 or more so money people, which scares me. I'd much rather have the military running the show, ex-military guys. So, yeah, I mean, I absolutely believe that, Dave. I really do. After all I've been through, that's the only way it could be.
Right. And I can understand that and appreciate that. I think it's something that is very lucrative. It's very. I think it's a story that you want to be kept quiet on. And here's the reason why. Is I tend to believe what a lot of people in Washington, D.C. believe, which is that the people of the world, not the United States, the people of the world, 7.8 billion of us, are not ready for ET contact. The majority. That includes...
I believe that too.
So if ET came down and landed on the White House lawn and said, we're here for good, we're parking our ships, we're getting out, we're going to tour Disneyland, we're going to go fishing in the Atlantic for tuna, we're going to go wrestle crocodiles in Australia, we're going to go have tea with the Queen and her reptilian cousins. Okay, I mean, what are we going to do as a society? What do you think is going to be the reaction, Lorien?
Well, like you just said, I don't think we're ready. I think most people would be so flabbergasted they'd probably have a heart attack and die. Seriously. I mean, there's a whole piece to this that I haven't even brought up yet tonight. And I'm a big proponent that it all comes down to mind control, because the ETs that I've been dealing with have been trying to explain to me for over a 40-year period that mind control is the key here, because we think we're sovereign. We think that they're going to show up and we're going to have a communication with them and they're going to land here and it's going to be like childhood's end. 100 years from now, they'll show their face and we'll all be used to them and blah, blah, blah. The reality is that they have so much technology that is so far advanced than our even being able to grasp, that they can exert a mind control technology over the whole planet all at once. And they could have landed here already, Dave. And I'm telling you, they could have done everything they're doing. They could walk among us. It's just like the movie where you put the glasses on, they live. And it could be going on right under our nose all the time because we don't remember anything. And we especially don't remember what they don't want us to. And I'm going to give you a prime example. I may have said this on the show before, I don't remember. But there's a movie out called Stan Romanek, Extraordinary, the Stan Romanek Story. And when I first saw that movie, there's a gray ET that Stan caught on camera standing outside of his sliding glass door. Now, whether you believe it or not, that's another whole story, but I believe it was real. And I see this ET standing outside the glass door, and I'm going, wow, that's the most amazing thing. And I know the producers of the movie, and I said to them, how come everybody hasn't freaked out about the fact that there's an ET standing there? I mean, he's caught this thing, not the one popping up in the window. That's controversial. But the other one they called the old gray guy. And he's standing there, and you see him plain as day, right, in the movie. And Jack said to me at the time, this was years ago, he said, Lorien, I don't know, but you'd think everybody in the world would be talking about it, right? It's disclosure, it's right there, it's on film, he caught it, we didn't alter it, whatever. And so years go by, and finally I decide I'm going to watch the movie again for the second, third, fourth time. So I do. I watched it 2 or 3 more times. And then my ETs contacted me and they said, go watch the movie again. I said, no, I just watched it. I don't want to watch it again. They said, no, we want you to watch it. I'm like, okay, fine. So I watch it, and guess what? There's no ET in the window. There is a black blob with some eyeballs or kind of shiny eye things, and I couldn't tell what it was. It didn't look like an ET. It looked like just a shadowy kind of thing, and it was very vague, and I would never have known it was an ET. But here's the kicker, guys. I had forgotten that there was an ET in the other 4 times or 5 times I'd seen it. It was like it was gone, and I knew something was gone, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. And so they said, watch it again. I watched it again, same thing, black blob, I couldn't see an ET, whatever. Then they said, watch it again. Okay, now this is like the 8th or 9th time I've seen it. At this point in time, I have forgotten that there was a gray ET at the door. And is that minutes or seconds?
Seconds.
30 seconds. I'll have to finish it when we come back. 30. Okay. So I watch it again, and finally this time I see the gray ET like I saw the first 4 times. I talked to my ETs that night, and I said, what the heck was that all about? They said, we told you. We can see through your eyes. We can control you. We know everything you're doing, and we know that on everybody on the planet, and we wanted to show you why nobody's freaking out about that movie. It's because we don't allow them to see us. And we'll talk about it when we get back.
And that's why we love Lorien Fenton around here. She is from the Fenton Perspective podcast. When we come back, more ET talk, more UFO talk, more disclosure talk. We got Lorien for another hour here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's make it worth it. Let's get the woo up. We can come back right after this. All right, we got about 6 minutes. I'm just going to take a quick break here, okay?
Oh, I might go get dinner.
All right.
It's been sitting out on the... I might go take 4 bites and come back.
All right, you go. I'm going to take you out. I'll take me.